Hello everyone, Sonic Saniraku here, and welcome to another Neo the Warden's review video. Today I just wanted to do an unscripted stream of consciousness discussion with the intent of talking about the things that I think a player should be taking into consideration if they want to become combo proficient at this game. Let's start by talking about why I think this game has great combat mechanics. Simply put, all of Neo's systems speak the same general combat language, which is just a fancy way of saying that all the tools at your disposal complement one another, with mechanics so conscientiously integrated into the combat's framework that no one mechanic is ever at play without 2 or 3 more to complement it. No mechanic ever feels disregarded, and that kind of consideration plays a huge role in the uninterrupted flow combat provides. The player always has agency during battle, and that adds to the smoothness of the overall experience. So what exactly, or how exactly, do I define Neo's combat ceiling? Or should I say skill ceiling? Well, I think that comes in 5 flavors. 1, your competency at pin building, because that's going to obviously lend itself to proper pin synergy, which is going to make combat become more elegant. 2, your ability to manage your pin meter. If you're just mashing away and going crazy, you'll have less attacks to work with, and that will leave you defenseless. 3, an understanding of your pin build's combo routes. If you have no idea where your pins are going or what they're going to do or how to form combos with them, then obviously things aren't going to look clean. You're going to look very haphazard during combat, and you're not going to look very stylish. 4, understanding immobilization statuses and how to properly use them to extend combos. This is a big one, because combos can end rather short, or you can have a lot of revenge value stuff constantly flying at you, revenge value retaliation to stay from noises constantly flying at you if you don't know how to use statuses to hold them down, or immobilization statuses to hold them down, I should say. And lastly, mashup utilization within combos. So while you're doing combos, the ability to integrate smart mashup usage within your combos to either act as a really elegant follow-up or as a good combo finisher is indicative of someone who really understands the depth of the game. Alright, so let's take a look at what constitutes a good pin build, the rationale behind one, and how those decisions affect combat. Typically speaking, when you're building out a good pin loadout, you want to take into consideration the psych, because obviously the psych defines the attack function that you'll be using in battle, and you want to make sure that your attack functions meld well with one another. Like, for example, if you have a pin whose function basically acts as a launcher, you want to be able to also have a pin that can maybe capitalize on that launcher by having another pin that can send the enemies flying right back down. So those are good synergizing attack functions. Next, you want to obviously make sure that you understand how your attack functions provide beat drops, because if you don't have a good idea of how they provide beat drops and you just pick a whole random slew of pins, they may not be really good at giving you consistent beat drops in battle. And if you aren't getting consistent beat drops in battle, then you're not racking up enough groove meter. If you're not racking up enough groove meter, you're probably having a harder time getting mashups. And if you're having a harder time getting mashups, you're producing less damage over time. So obviously that's important. And lastly, you want to be paying attention to the ability. Now, not all pins in this game have abilities, but the ones that do provide certain bonuses in battle that can actually give you a sense of sped up momentum if you build your loadout to take advantage of those abilities. And so I'm going to make that a little bit more clear in a couple seconds, by actually even explaining how I built this loadout. So right now we're taking a look at my pins. I have Omokage, Seraphic Snow, Trendy Tornado, Time is Relative, Frosty Friendship, and Leo Armo. Now, these pins have been selected because I decided that Omokage was going to be the fulcrum, or the centerpiece, to which I was going to build around. And typically, if you're going to be having a strong pin loadout, you want to have a pin that acts as the center, or at least an idea that acts as the center for why you're even picking the pins that you're picking in the first place. Omokage is my center here, and the reason why it is the center is because of its ability, Vibing Rock and Ice. Vibing Rock and Ice is an ability that activates once an enemy has been frozen or entombed. When they're frozen, when an enemy is frozen or entombed, and then they're hit again by Omokage Swift Strike, instead of them just staying still on the ground, they'll be sent zooming across the stage in the air. And that's one, it's a really cool effect to see. But two, it changes the relationship with Omokage and other pins, because now it starts to only have a really strong benefit when you have more pins in your deck or in your loadout that are capable of causing a freeze or entomb effect. So then, obviously, I'm going to be motivated to equip pins that allow me to freeze or entomb. And so you have things like Frosty Friendship, Trendy Tornado, and Seraphic Snow. But I don't like to keep things all that simple, so I take it a step further. See, I could have equipped any other pin for Fred, or in general, I could have picked any other pin that could have caused a freezing effect. But I decided to choose Seraphic Snow for this one because Omokage, as I mentioned, when you're entombed or frozen, will send you flying in the air. Seraphic Snow, with its ability to freeze, or with its with its status effect to freeze, also has the ability Aerial Assault. Aerial Assault powers up your attack by 50% when the enemy is airborne, or when the enemy is hit while being airborne. So if I'm sending enemies flying in the air with Omokage, I want to take advantage of that airborne status that they're in by throwing patrol rounds at them and getting 50% extra damage. Now, because these patrol rounds also have the chance to freeze, this means that if they hit and I get the 50% damage, I'm also getting the chance to freeze and start the loop over again. So if they freeze, then I fire off another Omokage hit, send them flying right back into the air, and then I just throw discs at them and then get another 50% extra damage while incurring another freeze chance. Now, if I don't get the freeze chance, I could always just use Trendy Tornado or Frosty Friendship to more than guarantee it. And then I just start the loop again with Omokage and then hit with Seraphic Snow. Now, you're probably wondering why I have Time is Relative and Leon Armo. These are more for functional purposes. Because the enemy is in the air with Omokage, I can strike them with Leon Armo, which has a massive hit effect that sends enemies flying down. So send them flying and then send them straight down with Leon Armo, which just looks cool in general because it's about the functions. I'm now melding the functions in a synergistic kind of way. Time is Relative is been chosen because of its Lance Lunge Psych. The Lance Lunge Psych has a tendency to push enemies as you're hitting them. And because Omokage is zipping across the stage and sending enemies flying, I can teleport the user, which in this case would be, over to where they've been launched, and then start skating them across the stage. So there's this sort of screen positioning thing happening, which allows me to create interesting interactions between using the Lance Lunge and prepping up another Omokage launch across the stage. And so not only do I have these functional status effects going on, but I also have these screen positioning and stylish like reprisals to take advantage of Omokage's Vibing Rock and Ice ability. And so that's how you synergize. You start thinking about how your pins can work together to induce a certain aesthetic or a certain effect and all that stuff like that. And then you really start taking advantage of the combos that are possible as a whole. Now, maybe I could have synergized this R2, the R2 selection a little bit better. I could have probably picked a Drift Tackle pin, because most Drift Tackle pins come with the ability Frozen Fatality, which increases damage by 50% when an enemy is immobilized. Now, immobilization can mean anything. It can mean an enemy that's been binded by a Poltergeist Psych. It could be an enemy that's been made dizzy, that's been binded by a tripwire, that's been frozen in time, that's been entombed, or frozen. And so with this, with my freezing pins, not only am I getting 50% extra damage whenever I send an enemy in the air, but now I can get 50% extra damage when they're frozen. So if Omokage is going to launch an enemy in the air, smash them against the wall, I get the 50% extra damage off of Seraphic Snow, then Seraphic Snow freezes the enemy. Now I can get 50% extra damage once they're frozen and dropped to the ground by using this Hogfang Drift Tackle pin. And then it starts to make my mind run about how I can create more interesting combos. Maybe I can send the enemy flying with Omokage, then use Seraphic Snow to get the 50% damage, freeze them, then smash them down with Leon Armo so they hit the ground, and then as they're hitting the ground, I use Trendy Tornado to get the entombing effect while, and then while that's happening, I start to increase the damage output with Hogfang. Or I could do an Omokage launch into the air. The enemy breaks out of its entomb or freeze or whatever, wants to smash into a wall. I use Frosty Friendship to reinstate the freeze while having Seraphic Snow hit at the same time. This 50% extra damage will happen, and then as the enemy is falling down while still frozen, I get extra damage off with Hogfang, and then maybe even use Trendy Tornado to switch from freeze to entomb to delay revenge value, and then I attack with Omokage again to launch into the air. Then while they're in the air, attack with Seraphic Snow, hit them with the this, and then pile drive them down with Leon Armo finally to finish it off. So you see how, like, once you really understand the synergy behind your pins and how they work, you start coming up with all these plethora of combo routes and ideas, and it starts to really make for an exciting combat experience, because the game's engine and how like you can string all together all these attack functions is pretty fast. So it's not like you're moving through them slowly, you're going through them at a blistering pace, almost as if you were pulling off a fast combo sequence in a hack and slash game. So yeah. Oh, but don't take my word for it. I just recently dropped a video demonstrating this pin loadout's combo potential. So if you want to kind of get a glimpse of what I'm talking about and see how my description of the combo routes actually line up with what's shown in the video, give it a click. I think it's going to pop up in the top right corner where the title card stuff usually shows up. So yeah, watch it and see if what I'm saying corroborates with the video. You're sure to get a general idea as to what I'm talking about here, and how a really conscientious pin build and understanding of the combo routes within that pin build lead to efficacious combo design. Yeah, so this is kind of like, I guess, part one, because otherwise if I was to talk about all the other constituents into like what goes into becoming combo proficient in this one video, to be way too long. So I'm just gonna break it into parts, but I at least wanted to cover how pin building is essential to understanding your pin interactions. And speaking of, that's what we're going to probably get into the next part. We're going to talk about pin meter management. We're going to talk about understanding pin interactions and how to like discover interesting pin interactions. And then we're going to go into how that ties into groove mashup utilization, along with using immobilization status effects to extend combos, and how to switch between immobilization effects to make the best out of a combo. So yeah, I hope you guys stick around for that. And yeah, that's also all going to be stream of consciousness, it's unscripted, so prepare to hear a lot of ums and ahs and oohs and blah blah blah. So yeah, I hope you enjoy and get ready for some more cool stuff. I'll see you next time. Bye.